Good morning. There you go. So I'll appreciate the opportunity to give you a quick update on where things are with the checkoff, and also appreciate all of you being here at the meeting this morning. So we had the most people register that we've ever had at one of our wheat meetings, so that's pretty exciting. I think at this point most of you know our mission. Really what we're doing is looking out for growers and hoping to have a viable, thriving, and growing wheat industry in our state. Certainly when we look at Michigan, I think we have a great story to tell and how we're able to get everyone together, all the way from your input suppliers to the seed producers, to the millers, the growers, the end users, and definitely to have us there and to be able to represent the producers. One of the things early on as we got organized and started going to some of the meetings, folks are really just glad to have somebody there representing the producers, sharing your voice, and talking about the issues that are important to you. So I tried to go through and look at all the things we do and pull the information that was most pertinent. And certainly as we look at what are our strategic issues, what are our priorities, they definitely revolve around research, production, education and communication, promotion, and market development. Early on when I started, I know one of the messages I got loud and clear over and over is we need to look at yield and we need to look at quality. So we're going to talk a little bit about specifically some of the research we've done, talk about some of the projects, and I'm going to give you some overviews of what we've done there. I think a good place to start is why. When we look at the state and look at wheat, why is it important to have an organization that is focused on wheat? Well, if we look at the history, 2012 through 2017, and we can look at the yields, really it's pretty amazing to look that in 12 we were at 76 bushels an acre, and then when we look at 2016, we had our record-setting average yield of 89 bushels an acre. So we know last year we were down a little bit. It wasn't quite ideal, but still good, strong opportunities in the state. And as we look at production, definitely a crop that's large enough that we can have the infrastructure and have that much support and interest in our industry. When we look at us as an organization, we are definitely one of the younger organizations, especially compared to a lot of the other checkoffs. In 2011, the program was started, and then in 2016, we went back to a vote of you, the producers, and got the thumbs up for another 5 years. So as we're looking and we're planning projects, looking at programs through the summer of 2021, looking at what is going to make the most difference or make the biggest difference for growers. As we look at that, your board puts their money where their mouth is, and if you take a look at the graphic, it will show you, when we look at percentages, about 61% of the budget is spent on research. Then as we look at those next two categories, events, which our events are pretty much this, the annual meeting, and then we have the summer field day, and then also when we look at sponsorships, memberships, we partner back. We're members of the Michigan Millers Association, so we meet with the millers, we partner with the millers. We're also participate in events with crop improvement and a lot of our other partners. So we want to make sure we're there and that we're able to share information and we have a seat at the table. So that's really where our focus is, and you can see there's an annual report in your packet. It is stapled up in the corner. That will be bound nicely and folded and sent to your inbox or into your snail mail boxes in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But right now, we actually picked those up from the printers yesterday to show you. Those are the ones that are stapled in the back. That is a real breakout of the activities that we did last year with much more detail than what I'll go through today. As we look at research and definitely look at where we need resources and what activities we need to focus on, as we added activities, it became apparent that we also needed boots on the ground. And I think you all know Martin Nagelkirk. I'm not sure where Martin is. He was over here earlier. Martin's here. He's been around, very active in wheat for many, many years. We were also able to partner with Crop Improvement and several of the millers to bring Eric Olson to Michigan State as our wheat breeder. And then we looked ahead at what else do we need, and that's when we saw we had the need for dentists. So we are very glad to have Dennis here. This is really the rest of your wheat team as we look at wheat research and wheat activities. Those folks are very important as we look at funding and look at programs. To date, we have funded more than 90 research programs and spent just about $2 million really looking at what can we do for wheat, really focused on quality and definitely focused on yield. So we've put most of our funding in at Michigan State. We have also done some research at Ohio State, and we have done some things with the Lenawee County Center of Excellence. And next Monday, we have a wheat workers group of folks coming in, and I have a feeling we'll be talking more with Peter, and maybe we can even get some things going jointly in Ontario and really expand some of our projects. As we look at research, I'm not going to go through and read these all to you, but I want to make sure you know of that 61% of the budget, where do those funds go? 22% of those funds go to breeding and genetics. And that's pretty much Eric Olson and his program at Michigan State. Eric will be at the field day in June, and he will be out in the field, and he will actually be showing you information, giving you information, and showing you the varieties that he has on the horizon that he's going to be releasing. So lots of really good information there. Also, disease will be out with a stop at the field day, and if you do have an opportunity over here past our booth, I do have a table that has lots of different handouts. Some of you have asked for kids stuff, consumer stuff, and then I also have a lot of production handouts. So make sure you stop by, take a look, but there's some good ratings looking at varieties and disease susceptibility. There's some nice pieces on stripe rust, so you'll want to make sure you pick some of those up today. We also have some handouts and have done a lot of research looking at nutrient management. Nutrient management is about 16% of the budget, and really looking at all those different elements, what's important, and what you need to know as growers. And then we've also looked at processing and quality. We want to make sure that we close that loop and have the varieties that are going to work for the millers and work for the end users, as well as those varieties that are going to work for you, the producers. Also, these are some of the other categories that we've not funded as much, but we've looked a little bit at health. We've done some work on cover crops, and we've also looked at high management. And then we've also moved into specifically the diagnostics program. In your packets, you will have a handout that is the actual form that you fill out if you have a sample to send to Michigan State. So early on, we were able to fund that diagnostics program, and at the board meeting last week, the board again funded to continue with that. So if you're out in the field and something doesn't look right, you're not sure if it's a nutrient issue, could it be a disease issue, could it be a pest issue, follow the directions on the back to take that sample, send it to Michigan State. We will pay to have the diagnostics done on that, and then you'll hear back either from the lab, or if it's a bigger issue, you will hear back from Dennis or Martin giving you some more information and some updates. So that's a really good resource. Make sure you take advantage of that and use that. As we look at research, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. This is one of those fun things to talk about because this is something brand new. As the program started and the board came together, we really looked at what's important and where do we need to focus. And as we looked at that, we said disease is a huge issue. And as we look at fusarium head blight, we've got to have a target on that, we've got to be looking, and we have to be focused. So we got some research from Michigan State and really tried to look at the varieties that are more resistant. What triggers those varieties? What makes them more resistant to fusarium head blight? So we worked with a researcher at Michigan State, and her work is done through biotechnology. We are not looking at a biotechnology project or product. I want to make sure you understand that. But we used the latest tools that are out there to be able to identify what are those genes that make a difference in some of these varieties versus these varieties that are really susceptible. And she actually was able to identify 2 different genes. And when you have those genes together in the same plant, and those 2 genes are working in tandem, it makes a huge difference in that plant. So I want you to take a look at this. When you look, and you look at the wheat head, the one that is green has those two genes. The one that is not is the control that does not have those two genes. Then if you go ahead and take a look at the leaf, you can see the ones that do not have the genes and the ones that do have the genes. So that was really the first step, was to say, can we identify what makes these two wheat plants different? And we have. So those two genes are actually in the process of being patented. It's the synergy of the two together. So that work is going on in our partnership with Michigan State. Then we're also moving ahead with the project because things can look really good in the lab, but it has not been grown out in a greenhouse or moved to a field. So right now the work is going on to actually grow those in the greenhouse, try to infect them as best we can with Fusarium head blight, and see what happens. We're very hopeful because this looks really good, but that's our next step, is to actually go ahead and try it and see how it works in more normal field conditions. So as we're doing that, we've included Eric Olson, who's the wheat breeder at Michigan State, and said, how do we move forward, if this does work, to move this into varieties that we have in Michigan? So that's where we are in the process. I wanted to make sure you knew what we were looking at. This could be an awesome breakthrough. As I said, right now we're just working on it, but we are moving ahead. And if this technology continues to work and look as good as it does, this then, we know the variety, we know where these came from. This then we can look at in Eric's program and see how we do this conventionally, so you end up with a wheat that has much more resistance to Fusarium head blight, which is something that we can release and make sure gets out to the public. So again, it would not be a GMO type technology. It would be a conventional wheat that would be out there and that would be available. These are just the steps we need to take. Slows the process down by many, many years when we can identify that in the lab and then know what varieties we want and what we want to go after. So with that, we will keep you posted, but we are very excited, and that's some unique technology and definitely would be a variety that could help us when we look at some of the disease issues we have in the state. And once we learn more about those genes and how they work together, there may be other things that we can look at, but those are some of the kinds of things we're looking at a little out of the box to see what we can do to make sure you guys have some more tools in your toolkit to be able to help when we're looking at some of the disease issues and some of those challenges out in the field. As we move ahead with the research program, we definitely plan to continue to look at the quality and the yield issues. We also want to make sure that we're looking at that bottom line. We know the last 2 years have been a little challenging, so we're not just looking at everything you can do for yield. We're talking and working with researchers to also say, let's put some dollar values on things. So when things get tight, what makes the most sense? What's the most value for my buck? What's going to make the biggest difference in my operation? So we're really looking there, and then we're also looking at what's that next 5 to 10 bushels. We've come a long way. When we look at our yield was 76, we've moved up to 89 as our average yield, but what can we do next, and what are some of those other options out there? Then we're also looking at market development. Things may unfold as we look at some of these different varieties and look at some of this technology. There may be places we can be involved that we haven't thought of before. So we're looking at that, and we're also looking at the marketplace, keeping our eye on the pulse. We know as we're looking at new consumers and different focuses, we're looking at production, we're looking at what are some of the consumer needs, so we're trying to make sure we're looking 5 to 10 years ahead, so we're meeting the needs that are out there by consumers. So with all that said, as we're pulling all this together, how do we try to get all that information out to you as the producers? One is definitely through our communications. We have an e-newsletter. If you don't get it, it's pretty easy. You go onto our website or just give me your email address today, and we have a monthly e-newsletter that goes out to about 1,700. And if you get it and you subscribe, I try really hard to keep it to once a month. I know, I think it was last year, there was a great handout. Dennis had worked with Eric and Lee and pulled together, looking at the varieties, looking at susceptibility. So we went ahead and did a special edition just to get that out. So we're really using that, trying to focus, get the information out, and make sure you know what's coming. But we're also very careful not to slam your inbox, and it's meant to be a quick and easy read. We also have the website, and if you have not been to our website and you come to events like this, there's a great resource on our website. If you go to mymeet.org and you go up under events and look, any events we've done, including when Peter was here before, and we had him up in Frankenmuth, we have all the events listed and the agenda. You just click on the agenda, and there will be the presentation, there will be the handouts, and there will be the PowerPoints. So you can go back and look at all the field days and all the annual meetings that we've done. We have Stephen back, he's taping us all today, that's why we all have so many microphones, and our backup microphone, and our backup microphone, to make sure we're all set, and we have good quality video, so you can take a look and do any refreshers, or double check comments, or those kinds of things as the season moves on. We also keep you informed through our events, and we have our rotation between Lansing and the Thumb area. So you can see we are set for 2018. Our summer field day will be up at the Saginaw Valley Research and Extension Center on June 13th. And right now, our 2019 annual meeting is tentatively scheduled for March 20th. I need to confirm that with speakers, but I think this far out we should be pretty good. And we're going to move that up to the Saginaw Valley Research Center. So we should be in good shape with that, try to size something a little different, and we'll continue that rotation between the Lansing area and up at the Frankenmuth area. If you're interested in getting more involved in some of the activities I talked about, I put up here, this is our district map. Our board is made up of 9 districts. We have 8 growers, and then we have our Miller representative, which is Art Loeffler from Star of the West. And basically, every year, 3 of those positions are up for appointment or reappointment. So if those are something that you're interested in getting more involved, let me know. 1, 4, and 9 are the districts that are up this year. So I'll have 3 more districts up next year, and those positions serve for 3 years. And we're always wanting to make sure that anyone who's interested, we can get you information. I will tell you, it's a hardworking board. Until about the last year, they met every single month, and we usually meet from 9 o'clock in the morning to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And when we do research, it's a full 2-day meeting. We go from 8 to 7 on the first day. The second day, we usually start at 7:30 because you're already there, and we try to be done at 4 or 4:30. So lots of work, but I think also lots of good information and a good time to get involved. So with that, here is my contact information. So if you want to know more or have ideas or have things that you have questions about, definitely give me a holler and let me know. And we will get you as much information as we can. And with that, I think while Dennis sets up, I do have a minute or so to take any questions if there's any questions.
Looking into these fallen numbers to help producers combat that problem?
We have. We've actually looked some, and we've done some work looking with RMA, looking at the crop insurance and how those numbers are evaluated and how actually you guys as producers receive payments. In the past, they've had this chart and the schedule, and it really didn't work for Michigan. So we were able to go back and get changes made. So depending on where that number falls, you actually get payment based on your settlement sheet. So, and I do have some more information on that, and there's some on the website. But I can get you more specifics. But we were able to work with them on that, and we're able to get some changes made. So,
are they doing anything to prevent fallen numbers when the wheat crop is, are they breeding this wheat so that we don't have that problem?
Eric is looking when they harvest. They're looking at not just for Eric's research, but also what Marty Childers has been doing. And they are sending those to the labs. They're getting the scores, they're getting the numbers, and that information is available. The challenge is it's not usually available in August when we can get all those variety trial information out because the labs can't turn it around fast enough. But we are looking at how can we get all that information to you throughout the year and get that all compiled in one spot. But they are looking at that, and we're trying to look broader. And Eric has several hundreds of varieties he's been looking at to see what's going to be the best. And he will have a lot of those on display at the field day.